I've been a brand development specialist for the last decade, and I've been the leading branding consultant on the platform Fiverr.com since 2017. During that time, I've worked with companies that you've definitely heard of, all the way down to startups that you've never heard of. And in this video, I want to give you my decade of experience in one concise video to help you build better brands for either yourself or the clients. And the reason I love sharing my branding knowledge with entrepreneurs and brand development specialists is because 75% of venture-backed startups, startups with a lot of money behind them, fail to return their investment back to investors. And that's a real study by Shikar Ghosh from the Harvard Business School. And if we look at the startup failure rate of companies that don't have venture backing and we include them in the mix, it climbs up to 90%. Now, 10% of those companies fail in the first year, with 20% failing in the first 2 years, 45% failing in the first 5 years, and 65% failing in the first 10 years. Now within 15 years, 75% of all companies will have failed. And then past that, 90% of all companies end up going under. Now if we just zoom in for a second and take a closer look as to why these companies don't become successful and why most brands fail, the top by far with 34% is not having a product market fit, closely followed by 22% of having the wrong marketing strategies, which is then followed by 18% of having team or human resource issues, and then with 16% having cash flow problems. Now you could argue that those four are kind of related in a way, so one kind of follows onto the other. But ultimately, no matter how good you are at the other three, having a poor product market fit is always going to cause you problems as a brand. Now I do tend to get the question quite a lot from clients of how do I get a good product market fit, so I will make a video about that and put it on the channel, so feel free to check that out. But I will touch on it later on in this video to teach you how to get product market fit, so make sure you stick around for that. Now in regards to actually building a brand and starting a brand, there are certain things that you need in place to actually build a brand and do it properly. And the structure and the process of actually building a brand has been exactly the same the entire time I've been in the industry, both with my own agency, Clementine House, and also when I worked in a much bigger agency before I went off on my own. And the process of actually building a brand should always start with strategy, which is then closely followed by finding your brand name if you don't have one already. Then you start to develop your visual expression. So this is things like your brand colors, your brand logo, your brand's fonts, and all that good stuff, which then leads on to brand presence, which then leads into marketing and then brand growth and scaling. So let's start at the very beginning with brand strategy. What is brand strategy? Do you actually need it? And how do you actually develop one? Now, in regards to brand strategy, if we think about what strategy actually means in its very definition, it means to simply do things in a certain way to get a certain result. So taking the resources that you have and applying them in a certain way with particular tactics to get a particular objective or to achieve something. Now, does every single business need a brand strategy? The reality is no, and many don't. If you have a brand strategy, it's going to give you a significant advantage in the marketplace. And once you actually understand how to develop one, which we're going to cover now, you'll understand why. Now, there are two parts to a brand strategy. The first is the analysis stage, and the second is the actual expression stage. Now, the analysis stage is where you ultimately look at your competition and your target audience, and you try to understand, number one, how you can stand out in the marketplace, and how you can communicate your offering or your product in a different way to your competition, and where they are weakest and where they are strongest, so you can see where you want to play and where you don't want to play. And then also you need to understand your target audience, so where your target audience not currently served in an effective way, so you can try to serve them better in that particular area, so they'll choose you above your competition. Now, once you understand your competition, what they do well, what they do not so well, and also once you understand your target audience, what they need and how you can serve them better, then you can start to develop your brand strategy. Now, your brand strategy is essentially your communication and what you are saying as a brand. This should include things such as your brand purpose, vision statement, mission statement, and values. It should also include your brand slogan and tagline, and then that leads into the next stage of the brand development process, which is ultimately trying to find your brand name. Now, in regards to your brand name, if you have a brand name already, that's totally fine. It's not essential to do brand naming right now, but it can help. And this is simply because you've already done so much work in the brand strategy stage to understand how to position your company in a really effective way by understanding your competition, by understanding your customers, and understanding how to serve them in a way to get them to choose you above your competition. So once you've found that positioning, your brand name should amplify or at least communicate that specific position. Now, the reason that I say that this is optional is because not all brands do that. And there's actually some incredible cases of companies that have been named before and then they've linked that to their positioning afterwards. So you don't have to rename your brand. You don't have to have a name which distinctly, defines that particular position within the market, but in a lot of cases it can help. Now, before we move on to the next steps of the process, I just want to define what the benefits of having a brand strategy actually are. Because a lot of people, when they're starting a brand, they maybe wonder what brand positioning actually is and why it's important. Can I not just sell a product and just see how things go? You can actually do that. And actually, that is ultimately what you should be doing first. You should be finding that product market fit, which is what I'll be kind of chatting about a little bit later on in the video. But having a brand strategy just helps to really refine and really create a concise messaging system and a communication framework for your brand. So that if a customer comes in touch with your brand and they actually kind of see your brand and they wonder, what makes this brand different? Why should I buy from this brand as opposed to the brand that I've been a customer to for 3-4 years, whatever? You are able to define and concisely communicate exactly what makes your brand different and why a customer should choose you in the shortest and most digestible possible way, because you've put in the time to refine it beforehand. And this can help you look super credible, super established, and super trustworthy from day one. Now, if you don't have a brand name yet and you haven't developed a brand name before, there are some things that you should be looking out for, but I also have some videos on YouTube already which kind of help to guide you through the brand naming process, so feel free to check those out. But in regards to actually finding a great brand name, these are the boxes that you should be looking to tick. Now, the first thing you need to be checking is to make sure that your brand name is actually protectable. So, if there's another brand out there selling the exact same thing as you with the exact same name and it's trademarked, you should probably stay away. So making sure that your brand name is distinctive and unique within your market is super important. Now, if a brand name is being used by another company, but it's in a completely different industry, selling something completely unrelated and completely different to what you're doing, from a protectability standpoint and a trademarking standpoint, it's usually okay because it's a completely different class. And the entire reason that the trademark directory exists is to make sure that customers don't get confused between two brands that are selling the same thing and that are named the same name. Now, another thing in regards to brand naming that a lot of founders forget about is scalability. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, scalability simply means that instead of just focusing on what you sell right now, think about what you want to sell in the future as well. For example, if you are a bakery that at the moment just sells bread, then calling yourself Pete's Bread Bakery is fine for now. But what about later on if you want to sell cakes or, croissants, for example? That brand name has a certain bandwidth. It needs to be a little bit broader to allow you to sell other products later on in the future. So instead of calling it, Pete's Bread Bakery, just call it Pete's Bakery or the Baker's House or something like that. So make sure you focus on communicating a certain message which isn't super restricting to allow you to sell more products later on in future. And two other things to think about when it comes to developing a great brand name is to, one, try and tell a bit of a story. It doesn't have to tell the whole story, but at least suggest something about the brand. And then lastly, and this is the thing which kind of leads us on to visual expression, developing your logo, brand colors and fonts, for example, is make sure that your brand name dances with the other elements of your brand. When you're developing a brand, and if you think about brands that you've kind of connected with and maybe seen for the first time and just thought, this brand looks like it's been around forever. Like it looks like everything just makes sense. Everything just clicks. And that's because the brand name, the logo, the colors and the fonts and everything else just makes a ton of sense. And it just clicks in your mind and you're like, this brand looks trustworthy and established. I would buy something from this company. Which then leads us on to brand visual expression. So what is brand visual expression? So it includes pretty much everything that you can see and touch for a brand. So for example, your logo and different variations of that logo. You've got your brand color palette, you've got your brand fonts, you've got the imagery and the style of the imagery for your brand. For example, if we see a Nike advert, we know it's a Nike advert just by how it's shot, by the colors, how the contrast is. We know the style of that particular brand. And an Apple ad, we all know an Apple ad as soon as we see it. We don't even need to see the full product. We know it's an Apple ad by those sleek curves and how it's shot and how clean and modern it looks. So visual expression from a branding standpoint is simply your brand's identity. It's everything that you can see, touch and feel. Now obviously every brand needs a great website. That's where customers are going to find you most, online. So in regards to a website, there are a few things you need to think about when you're building your brand's website. Now obviously how your website looks and feels is going to be unique to how your brand looks and what perception you want to actually create with your customer. But there are some things which are going to be universal across every single website and that every single website should do, especially for a startup brand that is not established yet. Now when we come to a website that we've never been to before, and for a brand that we've never been introduced to before and that we haven't bought from before, there are a couple of things that we need to cover in the first couple of sections of our homepage to make sure that we win over the customer's trust. Now the first thing is on our website's hero section, where we need to answer the question of what do we actually do and how can we help you as a business. And once you answer that question, the next section in your website should build trust with the customer. So this can be, for example, if you're a creative agency, you can showcase some of the logos that you've maybe created for different brands, or if you are an author, you should be showcasing the different publications or how many books you've sold. Ultimately, you want to build trust with the customer to show them that you are credible and established. And then after that, once you've done those two steps, you can then start telling the customer a little bit more about who you are and what you can actually do for them. This is where you can delve into details and actual products and services that you can offer them and ultimately what you sell. Now one thing that you do need to keep in mind when actually building your website is obviously yes, a website should look great and it should be easy to use and have a great user experience. But another thing that you should really focus on is making sure you have set objectives. So for example, if you look on my agency's website, clementinehouse.com, or even Lancaster Academy's website, you can see that they both have very specific objectives that they are both focused on. For example, Clementine House is focused on generating leads for each of the services that we offer, whilst Lancaster Academy's website is focused on giving away free assets to obviously build our email list and also selling courses and our digital assets. Now make sure you keep your website's objectives to maybe one or two because you don't want to overcomplicate your website, especially when you're just starting. And make sure at least one of those objectives on your website is to build your email list, because building an email list is one of the most valuable things you can do as a brand. This is because your brand's email list is something that you actually own, as opposed to a social media following which could potentially be taken away from you at any time. Now, after you finish your website, you kind of have all of your brand's fundamentals in place. So if someone wanted to visit your brand and check you out, they can find you online, your branding looks good, your brand strategy makes sense, and your brand name makes sense, so everything's looking great. Now, how do we get people to actually find your brand, and how do we get people to actually buy from you? Now, this is where we start to move into product market fit, which I mentioned earlier on in this video. Now, the one thing that I will say that I think a lot of brands, especially when they first start out, fail at is they try to sell too much too soon. For example, if we look at all the biggest brands in the world and some of the most successful companies in the world, like Apple, Facebook, Amazon, they all started out, and even Nike, they all started out selling just one single product. And this is where you're going to be able to get that product market fit that so many brands struggle to achieve and find. For example, Nike started out just selling running shoes. Amazon started out just selling books. Apple started out just selling computers. And Facebook, they didn't sell anything. They just marketed to college campuses and university campuses. And that was a specific strategy in place to get people onto the platform, and then they started appealing to a broader audience outside of those campuses. And this is really powerful stuff, because when you are trying to sell to everyone from a marketing standpoint as a brand, you end up appealing to no one and focusing on providing a solution to that one single avatar, and that narrow target audience is going to help you to gain momentum and get to a place where you are ultimately in a position where you have one product and one sales channel which is predictable and it's bringing in revenue, so you can then build upon that and generate more products which solve more people's problems. And when you focus on creating a really great solution to a person's problem and one single avatar and one single target audience, then you can start to gain momentum and then build out your product range to appeal to more people and more target audiences with different problems. But a problem that a lot of brands have is they try to go too wide too soon instead of building a really solid foundation and a predictable sales channel with one single product which really does a great job at solving one problem for a very specific type of person. Which simply means that they spread themselves too thin and they don't get that momentum to drive the business forward. Now, how do you actually know when you have that product market fit? And how do you know when you have that sales channel which is really working with that single product and that single customer to make sure that you can actually double down or triple down and start scaling that specific channel? Now, in regards to actually finding product market fit and then actually knowing you have it, the two are very similar. And it ultimately all starts with creating a minimal viable product. Because the last thing you want to do is take 5 to 10 years to create this incredible product that you think is amazing, only for nobody to find it valuable. So in regards to finding product market fit, it usually starts with ultimately not a product, but actually finding a problem which is yet to be solved properly. So once you can find a customer that has a problem, then you can develop a product which actually solves that problem effectively, and then you simply have to get the minimal viable product in their hands to see how effective it actually is. And then you have to create some sort of feedback cycle where you get the minimal viable product in people's hands who actually have the problem, you get feedback from them, and then you refine the product until it's at a point where you think it's good enough to sell and people are happy to pay for it to solve that problem. And you'll know the exact moment when you have a product market fit, because you will see customers with the same problem actively finding and hunting for your solution through referrals and through just finding your product organically. Now, once you have that product market fit and you're confident that things are growing organically already, now it's time to double down and triple down on that sales channel to really maximize the amount of sales and the ROI that you can get from that specific approach. I'll probably make another video later on down the line in regards to the technical aspects of creating a sales funnel and actually understanding what's working and what's not working and how to refine that going forward. But at the moment, it's just really important to understand how to really channel your energy and focus on just doing one thing really, really well, and then refining that going forward to maximize its potential. And once you feel like you've really maximized that particular channel, it's now time where you can start to look to introduce new products and introduce new sales channels to get more customers and to also expand your product range so you can sell more products to the same customers and really get the maximum amount of lifetime value from your customer base. Now, in regards to actually building a brand, there's obviously a million things that you're probably thinking about right now and you're probably wondering where to start. Now, at Lancaster Academy, we actually developed the Brand Builder Pro program, which is essentially the best, in my humble opinion, brand building program on the entire planet, because it guides you through every single step of the brand building process. Now, this is available online in many different places, such as Udemy, such as Skillshare, and also on the Lancaster Academy website. And the best thing is, it literally costs next to nothing. This course is as good, if not better, than any other branding course out there on the planet, and actually guides you through every single step of the brand development process. Even if you've never built a brand before, you can follow the steps in each of the courses, and you can literally build a brand from scratch in no time. And it covers literally every single step, including brand strategy, visual expression, building a website. And even if you've never built a website before, you can build one easily for any brand and have it fully branded and ready to go in no time. Brand marketing, and also brand scalability and growth. So pretty much anything that you need in regards to building a brand, it's there for you. And the best part is, the courses are super affordable, and every single penny that you spend with us, whether it be on Udemy, Skillshare, or on Lancaster Academy's website, every single penny goes back into developing more courses, developing more assets and more resources for you as a brand builder, as someone who wants to build a brand with purpose and successfully. Now, in the very unlikely case that you can't afford the course, I don't want that to obstruct your learning and stop you from building an incredible brand. So if you can't afford to buy it on Udemy, or if you don't want to buy a Skillshare membership, when you can even cancel the membership after like 29 days and just get it for free anyway, which is pretty much what most other people do, I think. Or if you can't afford it on Lancaster Academy, our website, then let me know. Pop your email in the comments and let me know that you want the full course, and I will have my admin team scroll through the comments every single week and send out free links to every single email that's in there. I do not care about getting paid for the courses. That's not what they were made for. We just want to make sure that every single person that would like to build a brand or want to understand about branding has everything that they need to give it a really good crack. So anyway, Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it valuable. Feel free to support, leave a like, leave a comment to let me know what you found the most valuable. If you have any questions, please let me know and I'll try and answer them. Feel free to subscribe because there's plenty more content like this coming your way. But yeah, thank you so much for your time and I will see you in the next video. See you soon.